Cars lined up on the grid then ahead of race 2 for the Nations Cup World Finals. Porsche 911s, and as you can see, a very wet circuit here. This is going to be exciting. Takuma Miyazono lines up on pole position, 9th of course in race 1, P1 so far in race 2. Jose Serraro is alongside him. Next up on the grid, Ryota Kokubun. Alongside Ryota, you can see Patrick Blajan there in 4th position, the Hungarian driver. Difficult race 1 for him. He'll want to try and turn things around. Valerio Gallo lines up P5, of course, our winner from race 1, with Angel Estrosza down in 16th in race 1 and 6th position on the grid for race 2. Andrew Brooks is lining up P7, the North American driver. And in P8, it's Rick Kevelam in P4. In P8 rather, sorry, after finishing P4 in race 1. Giorgio Mangano is in at 9th position. Whilst completing the top 10 is Lucas Bonelli, the Brazilian driver. Outside of it is Koke Lopez down in P11. And P12 on the grid is Adam Tapai, the Hungarian. Hasn't really featured so far here in the Nations Cup. Cody Nikolikovsky down in 13th place. What's happened to Cody's pace? Maybe he'll resurge with it a bit further forwards in this race. Then comes Adriano Carrazza in P14. P15, Baptiste Beauvoir, a very challenging qualifying lap, but not as bad as this man here, Tomoyuki Yamanaka. 16th place on the grid. Difficult start of the race then for him, at least.
Yeah, it's been very tricky for a lot of drivers. Now just a little bit of time to breathe, to concentrate. Got a long race ahead, a very tricky race ahead in these wet conditions and a very long run down to the start-finish line. So let's take it all in, relax, and it'll be a good T1.
Steve, who's your hot pick for the start of this race and who are you keeping an eye on?
I'm going to be looking at Patrick Blajan. I know that he has potential to deliver in these World Tour races. He never seemed to quite be able to win races, but I know he has the potential to do it, so I'm going to be watching out for him.
Cheers, Steve. So then, here comes Takuma Miyazono, ready to lead the field towards the timing line. Wet conditions at the Tokyo Expressway for race number 2 then. Who is going to claim the checkered flag in 13 laps time? We're about to find out as we head towards that green flag then. Miyazono from Serraro, Kokubun. Then comes Blajan and Gallo. All of these drivers could feature very heavily in the first few corners. Who's going to take the flag though, and who is going to be crowned the winner of race 2 of the Nations Cup World Final? We're about to find out as we go racing, and then here in Japan as Miyazono leads the field on home soil through in towards the daylight as we come into the wet conditions then. So Miyazono in the lead then, but for how long? Because Jose Serrano is very close behind him, and of course it's a long run down towards that first corner. You can see the advantage of the slipstream. You can see Serrano pulling out of the slipstream, going side by side as we come up towards the first corner. The Spaniard is ready to try and take the lead away, and it has taken the lead away. Meanwhile, you can see Ryota Kokubun there is on the outside of Miyazono. They're 3 wide nearly down to the first corner. Who's going to blink first, and are they all going to be able to hold on into the first turn? Serrano on the inside, Kokubun on the outside, Miyazono side by side, Blajan versus Gallo. They're all snaking their way through the first corner, and somehow they all manage to make it through, facing in the right direction as well as Kokubun loses out to Blajan.
Yeah, in the background, Gallo and Kokubun very, very close together at the moment as well. And yeah, I'm very surprised they'll got through there clean 3 wide at one point in the T1 in the wet in these Porsches. Incredibly impressive to do that. So here's Patrick Blajan. Strong start for him still. It's at this point really it's just making sure you get through the first couple of laps without a big mistake, because everyone's very close together. If you make a mistake, you're going to get shuffled big time towards the back of the pack. But it looks like Miyazono and Serrano starting to pull a little bit of the gap to Blajan.
Steve, where should we be looking at the overtaking opportunities here on this lap? Where are drivers going to be thinking about sending a move?
Yeah, I mean, you've got this long straight. It goes on seemingly forever, and you can actually overtake someone and get slipstream back again. So
2 seconds, Steve. Sorry, Steve, there was contact with Kokubun, and Valerio Gallo has caused an absolute massive concertina in the middle of the pack there. Contact between Gallo and Kokubun started that all off. They're both facing the right way, but they've both gone tumbling down the order as a result.
It's an A40 traffic jam there, wasn't it, Thomas? They all stopped trying to get by each other, and there's just no way around when the track gets blocked like that, and that's given a big gap to the guys ahead. They'll drive down into the hairpin. Brooks somehow up in 4th place now. He's somewhere out of all of this. Kokubun there on the inside. They all try and find a little bit of spot on tarmac to accelerate on. Can barely find out what's going on. There's a sea of Porsches here in the spray as Kokubun comes out in 4th and Andrew Brooks up into 5th. So he'll be happy with that. But yeah, I'm not surprised there. It's under investigation.
That's the understatement of the century. I mean, it's like watching a NASCAR race. They're all so close together between one another. Here comes Kokubun then with Andrew Brooks very close behind, and you can see them almost trying to push one another down this straight straight. Here comes Mangano pulling out of the slipstream on Andrew Brooks as they come through the tunnel and in towards the daylight then at the start of lap number 2. No penalties between Gallo and Kokeman. Stewards deeming that as a racing incident. Meanwhile, here is Serrano versus Miyazono. Miyazono is into the race lead once more ahead of the Spaniard, but is Serrano going to be thinking about a look before too long to try and get himself now back out in front?
So they're working together, they're bump drafting, they're pushing each other down the straight, and Miyazono, they're getting very aggressive on the front, and they're all in the wall. They're all in the wall behind him. Big crash at the back of the field there. Brooks comes out in 4th, Gallo 5th, Kokeman down to 6th, and they're still tagging the wall. They're all together. There's not enough room for all of them through there. Luca Bonelli has come up from pretty much the back of the field from 10th place up into 6th. So has Karatse, following them back up again. Wow, I would like to see a replay of that. Steve, did you see what happened there? Because there's about 4,000 cars on one bit of circuit there.
I think it's actually 8,000 cars, Jimmy, because I just really honestly can't keep up with this. I think the stewards behind me here are going to have their work cut out to try to work out what the hell is going on at the moment.
Yeah, I had a quick word with the stewards before we got this one underway, and they said, oh, we're not looking forward to this. There's going to be so much going on. It's only lap 2, my God. God dear. Well, no such problems though for Miyazono and Serrano. They've got a bit of clear track in front of them, don't have any immediate threat from behind. Patrick Blajan there in 3rd place is 1 second back. Just to keep you aware of this, by the way, we shouldn't be expecting any pit stops at all in this race. It's a lights to flag sprint. There's no need to change the tyres. There's no need to worry about fuel consumption over these 13 laps.
They're all skating all over the place right now. Miyazono had a really good middle sector there. He's pulled nearly a second on Serrano. So that's all we have to do. You have to get away in that middle part of a circuit so you then don't get slipstreamed on this massive straight coming now to start another lap. So Serrano actually a bit quicker out of there than Miyazono was. Here's Brooks, Gallo, Bonelli and Kokeman, the second group, so to speak. Now, will they work together? Will we see a little bit more bumping down there? I'm not sure of the drivers' briefing whether this is something that they've outlawed. Sometimes they do have a bit of a chat about that. Tom, have you seen much about that?
Yeah, I'm fairly sure they would have outlawed bump drafting. They do in other races, so I don't see why that would be any different here. Then you can see Gallo then into the slipstream here. He pulls out on Andrew Brooks. Meanwhile, Kokeman in the background pulling out on Lucas Bonelli there as well. This is just a sea of light coming through the tunnel as they come to start the 3rd lap here of 13 at the Tokyo Expressway. Still Miyazono that leads, but look at this gaggle of cars. Once again, they're shuffling and changing positions. Brooks versus Bonelli side by side. Kokeman in there as well. Gallo sits at the back of the train as they all come cascading in towards that first corner. Side by side we go as we come into there. Kokeman on the inside, Bonelli on the outside. Brooks involved in the mix there as well. They somehow all managed to make it through, but some of them ending up in the wall towards the outside there. Meanwhile, you can see they go side by side further back as well as Karatse is handed a 2-second penalty for colliding with another car, and now we come back into an opportunity for things to just try and hopefully settle down for a little bit.
I was going to say, I think it calmed down a little bit in the T1, but nope, they all go flying in there, of course, and just about keeping out of the wall and out of each other. On board with Valerio Gallo, our race 1 winner, currently down in 7th place, not where he'd want to be at the moment. You can see Ryota Kokeman though up there in 4th, and after that, big gap to Blajan, Serrano and Miyazono. So stay on board with Valerio Gallo. Good driver's eye view, what it's like to follow someone in the spray around here. Visibility is definitely a thing. Even in, of course, in simulation, the visibility can be difficult with the spray being kicked up. Gallo doing a good job to following the lights of the car in front. And now we come up again to getting towards the end of the circuit. It's one of the big overtaking spots here. We go for a right, go for a left, and it's a big lunge down to the hairpin, the tightest part of the course, that is. That's the best place to overtake if you can get alongside the car in front.
The top two have pulled out their gaps to 1.4 seconds. Big old wiggle there for Lucas Bonelli as he tried to get the power down, but no grip underneath his rear tyres at the moment. But 1.6 seconds it now sits between Miyazono and Serrano. Back to Patrick Blajan, who is in 3rd place, who's kind of all on his own. And I imagine, given the state of what's happening behind him, he'll probably be quite pleased about being on his own. Another big slide there for Lucas Bonelli as he came through the right-hander. That's allowed Andrew Brooks to come cascading on through into P5 as they come down the start-finish straight.
Yeah, Brooks has been defending that from Bonelli at this point, and they took different lines through there. You see Bonelli took a bit of a sharper line, so whilst he gained on the corner, he couldn't get the exit. The exit angle was a bit too tight to get the power down. So now Miyazono and Serrano back together again, and this time Serrano's going to put on by, and there's not really much Miyazono can do here, apart from just go, all right, well, if you're going to do that, I'll do that again myself. Jumped into the slipstream, and then there will be no doubt fighting down towards T1. Here's 5th, 6th and 7th still completely glued together here. And this Koke Lopez getting involved. So he's again come from the back of the field trying to make his best of this race. Koke Lopez, a great charger from the back, but he's got a lot of work to do to get up towards the front of the pack. Here's Gallo, Brooks and Bonelli, and there is Koke Lopez, sends it in there and just sort of
How did he make that? I have no idea.
That was quite funny because he jumped in there and just slowly, oh no, and just fell back off down to 8th place again. But be a bit less aggressive, Koke. We'll get a penalty doing that too much.
Steve, what do you reckon of things out there so far?
Pretty intense. I'm just looking at Miyazono and Serraro at the front of the pack. They're working together to try and pull away from Blashan. Down the straight, slipstream past each other, slipstream back past each other. They're gaining a couple of tenths every time. It's just free time. So at the moment, they're going to work it out between each other at the end of the race instead. So for now, just working together.
Cheers, Steve. Thanks very much indeed for that. I just wanted to say, by the way, very quickly, how the tables turn. Giorgio Mangano, second place in race 1, down at the back by 2.3 seconds in race 2. How things have gone wrong for him.
Yeah, how the turntables.
I knew that was coming. I knew it was coming.
But yeah, poor Mangano. Strong first race and then just forgot to turn up to the second race. But it's Koke Lopez. Will we see any more big sends? I encourage them because it makes a fantastic viewing. More of a slow burn of this race, and I say that because you're sort of just setting yourself up to be on the right bit of track for the ends of the race. While people are still lunging at each other as time goes on, as Koke Lopez just gives Benelli a little tap, say, hello, remember I'm still here, mate, and Benelli there responds by just booting it coming out of the right-hander. What matters really is where you are here on the last lap. So they'll all be trying to position their cars to benefit themselves come that time in the race.
It sounded like a cat on some lino there was Lucas Benelli trying to get the power down coming out of that final corner. Meanwhile, here are the duos of the race lead of Serrano and Miyazono, who are still working together, pulling up the slipstream of one another. Miyazono hits the front then at the start of lap 5. They've now managed to gap Patrick Blashan by nearly 3 seconds. The thing is, this is all, of course, fair and war until one of them is going to have to they keep having to wave the white flag to each other at this stage in the race, but of course it's all going to come to a head towards the end. Meanwhile, you can see 5th position with Gallo, Brooks and Benelli. Here comes Lopez, nearly 4 wide into the first corner, but we go 3 wide just to try and make things a bit more sedate. However, Gallo's on the inside, you can see Brooks on the outside, Benelli ready to come through, Lopez there on the inside as well, into the next right-hander which follows. Somehow they all managed to make it through facing the right way. Gallo in front ahead of Brooks, ahead of Lopez, ahead of Benelli for now at least.
I never thought this circuit and Porsches and rain would just promote pack racing. That's what we've got here at the moment. There's a third pack here from 5th to 9th. Van Galen and Strohs are getting involved as well after disaster in the first race, and it's just if you make a mistake, if you're, say, Gallo in front of the pack, you go wide at a corner, you have 4 cars that are going to just dive on through, and then you'll be back in the pack and have to start again, try and work your way back up. We're still on board with the Strohs and roof cam here as well. You can see just how close you have to get to the walls to be quick around here. Sparks being kicked up with the cars in front. They're going to get a bit too close to the walls, but makes them with some very interesting high-risk racing, and that's what we like here on GT Sport.
That's exactly what we've got as well, isn't it? It's just wonderful to see all of these drivers treating each other relatively well. It was a bit chaotic in the first couple of laps, but they seem to have calmed their act down a bit, given that, as you said, Jimmy, we've got a few packs racing against one another. I just want to say, Cody Nikolakowski, I was expecting a bit more from him in these World Finals, to be honest. Yeah,
I think maybe not quite where he wants to be in terms of speed. It's a shame to see him so low down the field. We used to see him fighting at the top of the grid, but we know he's quick usually in the last race. He saves himself for the finals, I think, but maybe he needs a few more points before then, because right now he's only on 8. Here is, again, this massive squabble for Benelli, Lopez, Brooks, Gallo, Inestrosa, and now more. Beauvoir in there as well. And Adam Taipei is getting involved. Here is Jose Serrano again, just driving by Takuma Miyazono. Guess what's going to happen now? Miyazono's going to get into a slipstream and go back by him, probably into T1. And as Steve has been saying, they've just been working together. Steve, I've got a good question while you're there, mate. If you're Patrick Blashan, can you even do anything here?
I don't think so. There's basically nothing he can do other than hope that they wipe each other out. That could happen at the end of the race.
Oh, Steve, mate, I'm going to cut you across because we're 3 wide now, bashing 4 wide now, coming down on T1. Someone's going to have to give because they aren't all going to fit through there physically. And Brooks comes out ahead. Gallo is in 6th now. Someone's made a bit of a mistake there. I think that was Beauvoir just getting sideways coming out. Guys, calm down. You got half the race left yet.
Goodness me, you're going to have a heart attack if you carry on with that sort of tone. Christ almighty. Steve, sorry, come back to your original point then. What were we saying about Patrick Blashan there?
Yeah, I think Blashan basically doesn't have any chance unless Serrano and Miyazono do something absolutely horrific to each other, which you never know, could happen. But at the moment, they're gaining about half a second every lap just by slipstreaming past each other. It's free time, and they're just they're making the most of it.
So Miyazono, by the way, wins this race from Serrano. Points-wise, they will be drawing going into the last race. If Serrano wins, it will be 27-23 in favour of Serrano. So these guys definitely cementing themselves as proper contenders in this series. Valerio Gallo, he's the one that needs to, I think, try and move up a little bit. Realistically, his best place now is probably going to be fourth at the front of the big pack of cars. I'll say that now, actually. Looks like Takuma's got away a little bit. So he needs every place possible to take those as many points as possible into the last round.
And Steve, just whilst we've got you here as well, I wanted to know, Serrano and Miyazono, they're battling against one another at the moment, helping each other out, increasing their advantage to Patrick Blajan, but when are they going to blink? When are they going to decide, you know, to make their move? Do you think it's going to come down to the final lap if it stays like it is?
I think it'll be the last lap, and the thing you have to really watch out for is the final hairpin on the very last lap, because you can actually be the car behind which can actually drag past before the finish line, so watch out for that.
Yeah, cheers, Steve. Thanks very much. Here we go. Takuma Miyazono ready to take the lead away once more from Jose Serrano and back out in front as we start lap 17. Don't worry about that as you come out onto the wet tarmac. It's not too much of a transition here at this Tokyo Expressway circuit. The tyres won't be lighting up because, of course, they're going a lot faster than they would be if they were coming out of a slower corner. Meanwhile, here we go once again, back with P5. Valerio Gallo ahead of Andrew Brooks. It's splintered away, this little group here, because you can see in the background there, it's now Benelli, Beauvoir, and also Coque Lopez are involved in a three-way scrap for position here.
I was just thinking on what Steve was saying. I think basically you're just rehearsing the entire way to the end of the race and finding out where you need to be in order to pass the other guy so he can't repass you on that long straight. And that's essentially what the race is going to be for Serrano and Miyazono at this point, just trying to get that right. So now Gallo, he's finally got to the head of this group. Can he put away from Andrew Brooks? Brooks has had a decent race so far, actually, a decent series so far. He's currently in the live point standings, as you can see, would just be in the top 5, so well within a shot of the overall title if the last race goes well at the moment. But nice to see it quite close at the top, but he needs to definitely come away with 5th, ideally 4th, but I think Takuma now is probably a bit too far away.
Well, nice to see Brooks doing well, like you say, Jimmy. I mean, we've seen him at World Tour events with his head in his hands, crying in his lap because racing just hasn't worked out for him. You know, we know he's got the speed, we know he's got the potential. We saw that with his performances in the North America regions in the top 16 Superstars this year, and of course in the regional finals for the Americas as well. And it's just good to see him fighting up the sharper end of the field and having, at the moment, and I really hope I'm not cursing this as the commentators seem to do so, having some good luck.
Brooks bias coming in strong there, Tom. I'm going to write.
He's got the best name in motorsports.
I am writing to Gran Turismo about you, Tom. That's not allowed. But yeah, to say that Andrew has been robbed in other races would be a bit of an understatement. He is so talented. He's been caught in a lot of instances that have just not been his fault. And this time, hopefully, as you say, we'll be doing well. We're on board now with Lucas Benelli, someone who did very well in the Supra series, took second in that overall, a great result for him. Currently down in 8th position, not doing as well here, and starting to fall away from that pack a little bit. But Baptiste Beauvoir, very impressive drive from him so far. He's made up a ton of places, actually. He's come up 8 places from his starting position, so 9 now as he goes up into 6th. 5th, so 10.
Changing all the time, isn't it? Baptiste Beauvoir, lovely to see him progressing forward after an absolute mare of a first race. Meanwhile, Jose Serrano back in front. Carrazza versus Tapai, they have had an incident under investigation. Meanwhile, here is Beauvoir versus Gallo, side by side into the first corner. Beauvoir on the inside, holds on to 5th place with Gallo trying to attack, but too deep into the corner there for him, allows Gallo through, and then Brooks comes through as a result of that as well. So from 5th down to 7th at the expense of one mistake for Baptiste Beauvoir. So, well, just goes to show that running wide in one corner can cost you very dear.
Well, it is here, French trained. Oh, bad to worse for Adam Tapai there. Plus 3 seconds for colliding with another car. We didn't see the incident. I'm hoping that at some point maybe Steve can grab that for us and describe what happened. But I'm going to assume just drove into the back of someone at T1 that's what I'd imagine it would be.
Easy to do so. I mean, given the closing speed and given how close these drivers are running with one another as well. Skating the wall there on the outside is Valerio Gallo.
Well, I drove this earlier and I could barely get around on my own, let alone with other cars around me. So it's a lot easier. It looks a lot easier than it is, I should say. Looking back now from Valerio Gallo, again leading that second pack. Still 4 cars in this pack, 5 cars, sorry, in this pack. So any small mistake and you're going to get mugged.
It's not working out, by the way, for Angel Estrada. He was in the battle for the top 5 earlier on in this one. He's now 2.5 seconds or so down on 9th position of Lucas Pinelli. We saw him have a warning come up on screen a few laps ago. I wonder what happened there, because there was an incident under investigation and a warning being given. Meanwhile, here is Baptiste Beauvoir on the inside of Valerio Gallo as they come out of the penultimate corner. A sharp trot across the nose there for Valerio Gallo. Beauvoir now into the slipstream once again, and out of the slipstream as they come in towards the tunnel, side by side between them. And who is going to get the drag down? I wonder whether Beauvoir pulled out just a fraction too early there, but it looks like he's got good momentum coming on to start lap number 8.
Well, this will be interesting now, because the guys behind are going to have a tow, so they'll just get back involved again. But I'm interested to see how Gallo and Beauvoir treat each other. They've been fighting each other all year in the online series. They've been two of the fastest guys out there, so I would love to see how that turns out. But Brooks and Lopez, because there was a bit of a tow fight going on, or a lack of a tow fight, both Gallo and Beauvoir lost out. They got freight trained by those with the tow behind. Here's Cocaine Lopez, and again, who's coming from the back of the field. It puts himself up now into 5th place. Maybe no, Brooks holds it at the moment. And it's going to be anyone's game going on to the last lap, as there's contact between Gallo and Lopez. Lopez gammers it up, though, masterfully. It's so hard to keep this car straight around there, as Gallo proves my point sideways coming down the hill, but a little bit of contact there. I would think maybe a racing deal.
Steve, I believe you've been looking at some of the incidents that have happened out on track. What have you managed to deduce?
Yeah, just been looking at some of the incidents between Lopez and Estrada into the final hairpin. And it's just really, they're just too close to each other, basically. And one tiny misjudgment on the brakes from Estrada. He's up the inside, pushes Coco Lopez out, but Coco Lopez looks like he's recovering quite well.
Yeah, thanks very much for that, Steve. So Lopez then into P7, Estrada down into 11th position as a result of the incident that happened a couple of laps ago. Meanwhile, now running aboard here with Lucas Pinelli, and he's kind of in the pound seats here. If anything kicks off between them, but I say he's in the pound seats. If he has oversteering moments like that and ends up in the wall, he'll be out of the pound seats and into some other kind of lesser seat.
Is there a tier system for seats?
There is possibly a tier system for seats.
I think this seat I'm on right now is probably at the bottom of it. It's one of those seats you find out underneath a wrestling ring. Here is Jose Serrano. He's behind Takuma Miyazono, and again, this is what this is going to be until the end of the race. I've been watching the driver cams of both of them. They both look quite relaxed. They sort of just know, well, what we can really do right now apart from sit here and just draft each other. As Steve alluded to earlier, it's going to be just a last lap lunge, and you see Serrano may be experimenting, and right now, if he had that sort of exit coming onto the last lap, he would come second. So he knows he's got to be closer than he was there, otherwise he's not going to be able to get away. I do feel for Patrick Blajak. He's got left behind. He's in no man's land at the moment. 4 seconds behind this fight, a second ahead of Ryota Kokubun. He'll be hoping to stay ahead of that. He does not want to deal with that. Interestingly, Brooks maybe, in fact, Brooks has got clear of this group now. If he can stay there, he might be able to pull away from this group that he's been stuck with the entirety of the rest of the race.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a hard push, as you mentioned earlier on, Jimmy, to pull into the gap of Ryota Kokubun. Meanwhile, here we go once again. Coquelin Lopez, Lucas Pinelli in the background there. Gallo versus Beauvoir, the two EMEA regional stalwarts. So side by side we go into that first turn. Lopez now back ahead. Here comes Gallo trying to go up the inside of Lucas Pinelli into the right-hander. He pulls along the inside and goes through into 7th place. Beauvoir is ready to try and take advantage and ready to try and pounce here as well. So the high-speed chess game continues as they come down the hill and in towards the S-bend. It's one at a time through here, unless you fancy a face full of concrete, and these drivers on this occasion do not, so they're able to keep it on the straight and narrow. But now Lopez is the driver who's going to have to be keeping a watchful eye on his mirrors.
This is going to be really interesting, this guy. We're going to get to the point now, as you see him squirm through there. Actually a bit of contact with the wall for Lopez. That's going to allow Gallo to get back by, coming up the hill. The same thing happened behind with Pinelli and Beauvoir as well. He's going to slide on by, up into 8th position. Every point counts at this point, because we're going to go into that final round. It's double points, and if you have any sort of advantage over your competitors, it is going to really put you in a better position for that last race. We've got our live point standings. You can't see them on screen right now, but we have them constantly up on the right-hand side. And it is so tight in the top 6 drivers there, with really Serrano and Miyazono being the big standouts. So really, we want Miyazono to win this, because then it'll be even tighter.
Yes, from a purely impartial point of view.
No, I want to see chaos.
Yeah, from an entertainment point of view, that's exactly what we want to see. Now here is Jose Serrano, and once again, as they come under the bridge, under the tunnel, he's going to have Takuma Miyazono all over him like a cheap pair of trousers, and he's going to be able to find his way back through once more, you would imagine. Let's see how long it is before he's able to find his way past. Of course, he needs to be a bit closer than that, but he's going to try and slingshot him on the final lap. But pulls towards the inside once more and goes back through into the race lead.
Steve, mate, I would love to get an idea from you. Do you know what sort of gap you need from the last corner to get to the line without being slipstreamed?
Oh, it's a really tough one. I mean, I've had lots of races here, and it is going to be close. There's no doubt about that. But you have to be about 3/4 of a second behind to be in the slipstream range, which, according to your accurate guide of blinking, is 7.5 blinks. So about 7.5 blinks behind, I'd say.
Thank you very much, Steve. I thank you for putting that in a metric that I understand.
Why am I working with these people? What happened to my life to get to this point?
Your career's gone drastically downhill, mate. Well,
it never went up the hill. What are you talking about?
Well, welcome to the rest of us. So, here's Serraro. He's about a blink behind Miyazono right now. Let's not do that. But I don't know. I think really, realistically, about half a second will get you to the line, I think, without being slipstreamed. I think you won't get past.
Well, we're coming in towards crunch time now then, so let's see what's going to happen between these two boys then. Takuma Miyazono and Jose Serrano. I've got to say, they've driven exceptionally well, both of these drivers, over the course of this race, and they both deserve to win it. There's not really been a standout performer in this one, as we have seen in previous events, and here we can see Miyazono versus Jose Serrano so far, and they've just been so respectful to one another. A lot of good racing conduct out there on track, not doing things that makes them look bad at all, and the gloves are going to come off before too long.
They were just clever. They knew that. Oh well, I'll say that. Now they're getting a bit friendly now towards the end, but they were just clever about it. They knew that if they squabbled, they'd just be back in the pack that we've seen fighting for the entire race. But if they worked together, didn't really do any stupid defending on this long straight here, then they would be okay getting through and put away. So that gap there, I've been watching this, that was just under 6/10 of a second. Let's see how close Serrano gets to the start-finish line. Would he pass Miyazono if this were the last lap? No, he would not. So I think it's fair to say about 5.5 tenths is about the gap you need to get to the line.
Looks about that, Ray, doesn't it? Yeah, you can see how close they run to one another, and Jose Serrano actually just doing a bit of a lift there in the tunnel, pulling out of the slipstream, but not trying to find his way past Takuma Miyazono.
He's doing the old 4D chess move, where he's trying to think 7 moves ahead now. He's thinking, well, if Miyazono's here on this lap, then I'm going to be there on the next lap, and that'll put me in the right place for that lap. So,
yeah. Oh goodness me, pulled back into the braking zone there behind Takuma Miyazono there, and I wonder if there was just a little bit of a touch between them going into that first corner. On board,
he waited.
Yeah, he did. He just waited a little bit there, Serrano, just thinking a little bit better of it. Those two keeping things on the straight and narrow, but the gloves beginning to come off a little bit, finger by finger. He's had the first finger off now, and it's ready for another one to come off before too long.
That's a phrase I never wanted to hear on commentary.
Good God.
Here is Miyazono and Serrano still. They've been our story of the race because they've just been glued together. And again, a great shot from the bumper of Serrano. Just a ton of spray being kicked up as we make our way through these Tokyo streets. I think I've been on these roads actually in real life, but I tell you what, I wasn't in a Porsche. Luckily for me, I think I would have probably lost my lunch as we come around this midsection again. And I think Serrano has placed himself in the right place. He wants to be ahead coming into the first corner so he can try and put away and get that gap to the line so he can win this thing.
Let's see if we get a rehearsal then as we get ready to come on to the final lap between Miyazono and Serrano. You don't think he's going to do so?
I think he's already made the move. I think he's made the move on the last lap, staying behind Miyazono, so he'll get by and hopefully, for his sake anyway, stay ahead into the first corner and then be able to lead to the line. We'll see.
So coming into that final corner, let's see what the strategy is between the top two, between Serrano and between Miyazono. You can see Serrano there just a little bit deeper into that corner, but was he just trying to square it off to get a more positive exit coming out? You can see on the right-hand side of the screen him feathering the throttle, trying to get the power down. Miyazono with a big old wiggle of the hips as he tries to put the power down, trying to get themselves back in. And here we go then, on to start the final lap.
He's just lifting big time. You can see it's just become a chess game now. Neither of them want the lead at this point. They both want to be leading into T1. Serrano's gone, right, okay, I'm going to go for it. Pulls alongside Miyazono. He's going to do it slowly. He doesn't want to give the toe back to Miyazono going down to T1 here. They're going to run side by side, and this is significant now because this is the last lap of the race. It's your last chance to be in the lead for T1. Serrano wants it. He's going to have it, I think. He's timed it absolutely perfectly now, but Miyazono would not give it up. I guarantee he's thinking exactly exactly the same thing now. He pulls into the toe for a second, goes to the outside to try and go the long way around, but he won't have it. Serrano into the lead on the last lap.
So lovely stuff there from Jose Serrano back through. It was a case of after you, no, after you. Oh, hang on a minute, no, after you. You can see the live points rankings on the right-hand side of your screen. That's if it stays as it is. That's how it would sit. A little bit of a slide into the wall there for Serrano. Didn't lose too much time. He just kissed it on the outside. Serrano would lead by 4 points going into the grand final then here. We're coming in towards this middle sector. We know how much of a one-a-time it is through here, but we have seen some moves be made.
They don't discount a Miyazono send. We've seen it so much in these events where in the last lap, last corner, he goes, you know what, I'm going to try and go for this. And I think he's going to have to do it now. Serrano's quick for his middle sector. He's starting to pull back. That's half a second now. That is a proper gap at this point in the race. And I think his last chance to make anything work is going to be a chuck up the inside on the last corner. We're going to find out very shortly, though, as they make their way through this middle sector. Serrano right on the edge of the limit of the grip, just keeping the car in a straight line. And it's going to be do or die in these last few corners.
So come on then, let's see what's going to happen between Miyazono and Serrano. You can see Serrano is really pushing the limits of adhesion then coming through the left hand. A bit of a slide through there. Miyazono a little bit tidier, but they come down into the braking zone. Is it going to be a send from Miyazono or Serrano as they come into there? Serrano knows that. He goes for the defensive line. Miyazono's going to try and go the long way around the outside as they come through there and try and get the switch back into there. Serrano's deep. Miyazono's up the inside. Serrano's outbraked himself. Miyazono's through, but it's going to be a drag to the line then, surely for the race win here in race 2 of the Nations Cup World Finals between Miyazono and Serrano. Then this is absolutely phenomenal. Who is going to take the checkered flag between Miyazono and Serrano? They run side by side with each other down the start-finish straight then. They head under the tunnel. It's advantage Miyazono. Serrano's keeping him honest, but Miyazono is surely going to take the checkered flag. This is fantastically close between them. Only 22 thousandths of a second to the line. Miyazono wins from Serrano in race 2. Blazhan in 3rd, Kokeman 4th, and Andrew Brooks finishes inside the top 5. And there we are. You can see the relief on Takuma Miyazono's face and exactly what that race meant for him, Jimmy.
And importantly, that now ties the points going into the last round. Serrano's not bothered about it. He's on his phone to his mum saying, came second, Mum, sorry.
What's for tea?